gets open for three. Dagger!
The kick in, here it comes. Swing and a miss! And a World Series Game 7 winning Curly W is in the books.
Washington Capitals are the 2018 Stanley Cup champions. You like that? You like that? I like that.
You gotta like that, right?
My approval ratings keep going up.
Sorry to keep you waiting. Complicated business.
Everything we need is in this room. Everybody in this room we need. We've got to work together, stay together, and be the team that we can be. We will not take it from anybody. I don't give a shit how they stack it against us. We're whipping it. Now let's play football. Here we go. Team on three. 1, 2, 3. Team!
1, 2, 3 team. 1, 2, 3 team. I don't know. Should we play the intro again? I mean, I don't know. Usually I get psyched for I get all excited with the Kirk thing, but I don't think we need to play the whole thing again, Paul. Everybody, welcome. We are live, DTC. I feel like it's been, I don't know, like 2 weeks or so. Thanksgiving kind of threw off our recording schedule. My name is Joe, for anybody that's finding the show for the first time. His name is FP on mic number 2. And, you know, the last time we talked, the Washington football team was looking up at a bunch of teams with not a lot of hope. I think the last time you and me were on a show together, FP, they were getting ready to face the Bucs, if I'm not mistaken. And we were both cautiously optimistic that they would look better, but probably not win that game. Of course, they did win that game. Then they go on the road and beat Carolina. And now most recently coming home, defeating the Monday night curse, the primetime curse, in a very convincing fashion. I mean, that game was closer than it probably should have been, given, you know, we didn't have a field goal kicker for the second half, and Tress is a lefty, and there's some stuff we can talk about. But, you know, I feel like Ron is the biggest story. Coach Rivera was the biggest story Tuesday morning. You know, he was fired up probably for the first time that I mean, it's the most memorable Ron fired up, impassioned locker room / post game that I remember seeing. I mean, usually he's just doing his, you know, his cross arm thing on the sidelines where, you know, he's got us wondering whether he you know, he's interested to be here or not. Totally different Ron, though, after Monday night. Totally different.
Yeah, and it's not just Monday night. You can almost, like, to go back to coming out of the bye week, right? The whole we're going to adjust and look over everything and kind of reevaluate. It's almost like from that point forward, through the Tampa Bay game, you saw more interaction on the sideline. You saw more enthusiasm. You just saw a little bit more personality from Ron. And then now we're getting the post-game locker room interviews, and you love the hype that he has. And the whole David and Goliath throw the rock at the whiteboard thing. Like, we have the fight. We could take down the Giants. I love it. I mean, I was telling you, any Ron speech makes Kirk's meek you like that seem like choir practice.
So I disagree. I think the Kirk thing, I mean, it was the Kirk thing was a special time. Like, he had the whole pressure of the city on him. You know, they were riding. I mean, the circumstances around the original you like that. I mean, he was pissed. I don't care what anybody says. That was specifically intended for the media, like for the media pool.
The thing is, right, it was for the media pool, but that's the biggest thing, right? Like, Kirk Cousins, I love him, but I mean, the dude's still lining up behind guards. Like, he is a player.
Don't kill Kirk for that, man.
I'm gonna kill Kirk.
Everybody makes that mistake every once in a while, right?
He's a 10-year vet now. You can't make that mistake. Aaron Rodgers isn't making that mistake after his first 10 years in the league. I love Kirk, but like, when you look at Ron and the fire that he has, and kind of this tenacity and this energy that he's bringing out of this team, like, we're essentially, outside of Terry McLaurin, we're the land of misfit toys, right? Nobody on this team right now, without Chase, without Sweat, nobody on this team should be taking down the Buccaneers, should be winning nail-biting primetime games. Like, he's bringing this David and Goliath feel out, and he's making these players believe and buy the hype, and winning cures all, right? So this team, somehow, some way, everything's clicking for them. And let's be honest, that Monday night game, if you have a kicker, it's not nearly as close. And we were dominating the Seahawks. And I don't care what people say about Russ and if he's injured and Pete Carroll's fallen out of it. You're dominating Russell Wilson, with Lockett and DK Metcalf. Those are three very, very, very potent weapons.
And the Metcalf
if you
thing,
look at that stat line,
yeah.
2 for 1 on
I don't think
plays.
anyone
2 for 1
expected
on
Metcalf.
plays.
Yeah, Metcalf was targeted exactly 0 times in the first half, and I think he had 1 target through 3, and then 3 in the fourth. But I mean, the cornerbacks, Kendall Fuller deserves, a hat tip and a salute all the way, right? Because he played
absolutely.
He played maybe the best game in his return tenure to the team. Willie played a great game too, and Landon. I mean, I didn't think I was going to say this anytime. I mean, if you go back in time and think, honestly, who would have thought
5 weeks ago? No,
5 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, we would be sitting here talking about how effective Landon Collins has been defensively and how the defense has really pulled themselves together. Yep. And Stevie talked about this. It's the Ewing effect, right? When you're missing your stud, sometimes it forces people just to do what they're supposed to do as opposed to relying on the stars to be stars or trying to do too much. They're missing arguably their best and third best talent, just talent overall. You're right. I mean, Montez isn't out there either. Montez hopefully will come back within the next week or two. But there's something to be said about that too, FP. I mean, this team defensively, right now they're playing, and I saw this stat somewhere. They were obviously the team was undefeated in the month of November, which is kind of incredible by itself.
Mm-hmm.
But defensively, if you just isolate the month of November, the defense would be ranked 6th overall, right? And that's what we were expecting from this team from the jump, but we didn't get it. But now we're getting it. So it just puts the whole thing into perspective. It's weird that they're doing it, and it hurts. I'm sure Chase is sitting out there. Like, if you're Chase, what are you thinking right now? What could you possibly be thinking? Like, his absence, the team is playing better in his absence. Montez too.
Here's the thing. It's not, if you're Chase and you're Sweat, you're not looking at it and being like, am I the problem? You're not thinking that. What's happening is you're essentially having Jack Del Rio now having to be forced into calling more exotic packages, using the rest of his playmakers. Whereas when you had Chase and Sweat, I think JDR was kind of, I'm going to use my elite athletes straight up. And that wasn't working. And now that they're not there and we have Shaka Toney and all these other scrubs on the edge and Jonathan Allen kind of taking over that defense and being like, let's all work together, unity, exotic packages and stunts and this and that. The defense is clicking because And this is a lot to do with JDR. JDR is now forced to actually be a defensive coordinator.
I can see the pain in your
and not
eyes.
rely.
I can see the pain.
He doesn't have to rely
on
Chase.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have to. He can't rely on Chase because Chase obviously isn't there. But I don't know, man. Like Landon, they can call whatever position. They can call that position whatever they want. But he's basically playing as a linebacker. I mean, that's what he's doing.
100%.
Right?
There's no hybrid in the hybrid linebacker.
Yeah, what they can call it, the Buffalo nickel. They can call. I don't care what they call it, but keep using him in that capacity because and maybe some of this FP is just simply without Chase and Montez. Like you just have to send more bodies to consistently get that pressure. Now, the sack numbers are not impressive. I mean, I think they got Russ once. Maybe on Monday night, I can go back and double check that.
Once, but you got Cam once.
Yeah,
the week
it
before.
It wasn't significant, but the pressure was there. And as good as the defense has been playing, the offense, they finally got some of their full complement back. I mean, they did get back Logan Thomas. We saw Curtis Samuel, and there was some hoopla early in the week about Curtis actually having surgery, even though Ron said he wasn't going to have surgery. Like, this is where the WFT just continue to kind of step in it. Like, it's the RG three-way, right? And I think we have to touch on his shenanigans too here, but it's this thing where like, why can't Ron just like, if he had surgery, you signed a guy who had surgery, right? Or you signed a guy and he needed surgery, right? Like
don't play with the media.
But if you just say it, then it's done, right? But when you start dancing around and we don't know and he doesn't need it, he'll be fine. It just leads to more stuff, And again, we're sitting here. The team is 5-6. Facing a beatable Vegas team, and then it's all NFC East the rest of the way. So they don't have to win out, but I don't. Again, they control their own destiny from here. If they win 3 of 5, and those 3 happen to be division opponents, depending on we'll see what the Cowboys, how they fare on Thursday night against the Saints. I think if the Saints beat the Cowboys, then the Saints will leapfrog Washington in the playoff right now real-time playoff standings. But I mean, which actually might be better for Washington because it puts Dallas within 2 games. and we get to play them twice. So the division is actually in play here. So, I mean, that extra week of games, the extra playoff spot, it means that teams that are 5 and 6 or 6 and 5 or somewhere in that conversation, they're very much in the playoff hunt. So, I mean, the season is not lost. And ironically, I find myself looking back to the Saints game in particular and saying, like, damn, how great would it be to have that single tiebreaker, right? Because you got the Carolina tiebreaker, you have the Tampa tiebreaker, which I don't think you're going to end up needing. You have the Seahawks tiebreaker, which doesn't really matter. The Seahawks are falling apart, but who cares about the Seahawks? I mean, no love lost in DC for Seattle whatsoever. But that Saints game was a winnable game, and an NFC opponent that you knew was going to be in the playoff hunt. I mean, that's one you definitely wish you can have back. And if the team is playing then the way they are now, they win that game. They probably win the Chiefs game too. And definitely the Chargers game.
Your red zone was working. Not the Chargers, but the Packers for sure.
But the Chargers game was, I mean, that was a winnable game, and the Chargers have kind of fallen off as well. I know that your record is what you are. So this team is 5 and 6 with, to me, winnable games for the rest of the way. I mean, Dallas has slowed, Philly is Philly, and New York is New York. So if you can pick up this win against Vegas, even if you lose it, it's not the end of the season or end of the world by any means. Right. But Vegas is a beatable team. I mean, and the way this team is playing, I mean, Vegas coming off a bye got right, and they had lost a bunch of games. But Washington should be able to go in there, hang in, and win this game. I mean, it's not. The early line I think was Vegas plus 1.5. Like Vegas is basically saying it's a toss-up.
All you can ask for as a football player, especially a professional football player, is to have meaningful December games. And we're in that position now. And with this extra playoff seed, like the saying is, it doesn't matter what the record, it matters who's playing the best football. And right now, somehow, some way, the Washington football team is playing some damn good football. And like, props to Heineke, props to Scott Turner, props to Gibson. Like, this offense is clicking. I'm not worried when we get in the red zone. You have J.D. McKissick ran it in for 2 times.
I'm still worried about red
Logan
zone. The red zone offense still looks a little poopy.
But here's the problem.
Be honest.
Red zone is shaky, but if you're from the 20 to the 10, you're getting in. We have the place to get in. We're efficient there.
The problem now is there isn't a kicker, right? And Joey Sly.
Well, we have one. We signed the Bears guy.
I know, but I mean, is there something to all these blocked field goals? I mean, someone has to ask that question, right? Is it like
100%? It's Cheeseman.
What?
No, it's
something is
Cheeseman.
wrong
You let, and that's kind of on Ron, right? You let Sundberg go for no reason, who was proven to be a great long snapper. You waste a draft pick to bring in a new long snapper, which it wasn't a need. And now you have to kind of, I mean, if you still have Sundberg, you probably still have Hopkins. Hopkins isn't doing the stuff he did that made us get rid of him. As you can see on the Chargers, he's doing fine there. So, and then
I mean, but you bring in Blewett. Blewett doesn't cut it. You get rid of Blewett. Joey Sly looks the part. I mean, he looks fine. I mean, a freak accident. Looks like it's going to be 3 to 4 weeks minimum. So the field goal, like the special teams from a field goal perspective for DC went from being iffy but stable to completely unstable to iffy but stable again, or trending in the right direction. And now we're back to maybe there's
just
more. And
iffy,
Ron
maybe
actually said it in the
stable.
post game too. He said we're going to be looking at a lot more 4-down options. And he, his quote, I have it somewhere written down somewhere, but he said, Scotty, meaning Scott Turner, we're telling him to call, 4 downs basically once we get inside the 35 because, we can't kick a field goal and we're not going to punt. So, run a second down play on 3rd down, try to get a little bit closer, and we'll just kind of power it forward. And honestly, the way McKissick has been playing, the way Gibson's been awesome. I mean, right? No fumbles. That's a big win.
Yeah.
But
big win.
He runs hard. He runs hard. I mean, he's still got that breakaway speed, and they've actually been involving him a little bit more as a decoy and as an actual pass catching option, which is great. And for a family, he's on my fantasy team, on one of 2 fantasy teams. So I like when he touches the ball in that regard as well. But as good as the defense is playing, the offense also seems to have found a rhythm. And I think Scott Turner, and I've killed Scott Turner a lot on this show. Like, Scott deserves a lot of credit here. Like, the plays look a little bit more dynamic. They're not throwing 4-yard routes on 3rd and 8 anymore, which is a bonus. And they got Curtis Samuel back out there. And we haven't gotten a chance to really see him burst or speed or just go do something that he's been known to do in years past. But you have to respect that his pass catching ability, right? You have to respect the fact that he can run a 5 or 6 yard route, turn around, catch the ball. He's very sure handed. In that Atlanta game, I think he had two catches down the stretch that were on fourth down and a couple on third down as well. So, the offense overall is clicking, and I think they can go to Vegas and win. I don't see.
Oh, it's a very winnable game, especially if Waller isn't playing, and we may get Vegas without Darren Waller, and that's their biggest weapon, right? So then you kind of focus down on.
Deshaun's out there too, right? And
Deshaun's been on out there, team.
And he's been on every team, so I'm not buying this revenge game nonsense.
No. And look, we're gonna get burned. You can expect one big burn play from any team we play at this point. It's just it's gonna happen, right? So Deshaun's gonna get his one, and then he'll be out. And then you really just have to prioritize Hunter Renfrow. That's it. That's all you got to worry about for Vegas.
Yeah, but they can run. They can run the ball there, right? Between.
But I think our run defense
and Kenyon.
Yeah, but between Allen, Ioannidis, and Payne, I'm not worried about that, right? So it's a very winnable game.
My guy.
I think what we need to touch on, and this is kind of the biggest thing, is surprisingly, Stevie's going to love this, is how great the big boys are playing on the O-line for being injured. And
Steve's
our
gonna love
fourth
it so much
center,
he's been crapping on them all season.
Fourth center, great. Right? We're shuffled up like crazy. Center comes off from the street from Monday night. We don't miss a beat. No missed snaps, no high snaps. He's moving bodies. The run game's working. You got to give credit to this O-line. A lot of that is the reason why this team is clicking, because we're getting the Antonio Gibson runs. We're getting those 4-yard runs that turn into 18-yard runs that turn into pass option. But
we're also getting Taylor staying upright, and even though he's pressured, he's able to see, he's able to move around, he's able to make some things happen. We're seeing less carelessness with the ball.
You're seeing a maturity from game to game.
Yeah, he's growing. This is what happens when a guy off the street gets meaningful reps week after week after week after week after week in practice. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is, and I honestly believe this. If you're getting first-team reps consistently with any NFL team, you're going to improve, and that's what we're seeing right now. But typically this doesn't happen. And it makes you kind of question, why is Kyle here? There's a whole bunch of other conversations about the roster, the construction of the roster, and who's going to be here next year. But, for right now, Taylor is not costing them games. He's keeping them in games. He's able to. Right. He's calling more audibles at the line too, which is something I've noticed. Like he's being trusted to do more at the line, which is a good thing for the team as well. So again, everything is kind of trending in the right direction. And at 5-6, and Ron's given rah-rah speeches. we're in a much better place than we were a couple weeks ago. They have the potential. A couple days from here, we might be sitting here talking about a 6-6 team that's got only division opponents left. Right. And at that point, you just need to split them and you're going to get through. Yeah. So, it's kind of shocking. To be honest. And again, if I don't like doing the revisionist history bit, but at the beginning of the season, when we did our winners and losers, I personally, I had them, the guys were killing me for it, but I had them at 12 wins, which was a stretch, of course. But if you flip 2 or 3 of these games that they lost, that they could have won had they been playing the way they're playing now, they're a 10-ish win team, right? Vegas had the line at 8.5. Right, and we put a lot of money on the WFT beating that and getting to 9 wins, and right now it's looking like they will get there. I think.
If you had a field goal kicker, you win the Denver game. If you're playing remotely as good as you're playing now, you win the Saints game. There's your 2 right there. You're looking at 7-3, 7-4 record, whatever. I don't know. This team
and then throw in the Saints game as well. I think the Saints was a winnable game too. The Chiefs was a winnable game until the fourth quarter.
Yeah, realistically, and this is going to sound like I'm a homer, and a little bit of it is, you could you could realistically go 11-5 end of this year. And that's insane that 11-5 is on the table.
It's possible. Once upon a time, was it Marty and LeVar did it, right? They ran the table to finish out the season, if I'm not mistaken. So it's possible.
4 weeks ago, entering that bye week, 11-5. So did not seem possible.
Where do you have the WFT kind of in your weekly power rankings? I got them at 17, And really, I was trying not to be a homer. I was going to put them a little bit higher too, but I think they're playing better than about half of the league. Personally, they're no longer in the bottom 5 conversation. But I mean, I'll give you my bottom 5 if you want to hear them. But I'm just curious where you have the WFT.
I would put them at like a 15, 16, and that's only because typical power rankings are going to have like the Browns, the Steelers, the Broncos, the Vikings over us. I don't think those teams are over us, right? So I think that pushes
I
you
think
to
the
15.
Broncos have proven to be a better than the Vikings are better than the record. The Vikings are. Say what you want about Kirk. They're better than the record.
I'm pretty sure if we wanted to dig into it and we looked at strength of schedule and the opponents, like we went through a gauntlet of a schedule, a first place schedule, and we're kind of right there with them. I think if we had an easier schedule, I think we'd have a much better record than those teams. So I would, for true power rankings, yeah, I'm looking at like a 15, 16.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't strongly disagree. I mean, I think you're a little bit bullish, but that's okay. I mean, they're no longer in my bottom 5, and that's where, I mean, a couple weeks ago or the last time we did a top 5, low 5, they were flirting with that mid 20s positioning, and I think deservedly so. But my bottom 5: Jets, Bears, Texans, Jags, and Lions. And just a comment here on specifically on the Lions, they are the best winless team I've ever seen. There's been a lot of winless Lions teams in years past, but these guys lose in like actual heartbreak fashion more frequently than they don't. I mean, they have a talented running back in DeAndre Swift. Goff, I think his story
He's serviceable.
He's serviceable, but I mean, when McVay's not his coach, he's not great. I mean, and that's kind of where it comes down to. The Jags, I mean, they seem like they should be better. I don't know, but those 5 teams are clearly the worst in my opinion. The irony is that the Jets, the Bears, and the Jags all have rookie quarterbacks. Like they all drafted quarterbacks, this year, and we'll see if that amounts to anything. But anyway, that's my bottom 5. I'm going to assume yours is similar, if not the same.
Yeah, it's similar, except I'm lifting the Bears out and I'm putting the Seahawks in. The Seahawks are bad, and losing to us,
that team, man. They're too
talented. It's a bad team. Like I need you to realize what that's. If you remove that touchdown drive at the end for that game where they got all their first downs, the domination from Washington football team over the Seahawks was insane. 5 3-and-outs, no first downs in like the second half, like until that drive outside of like maybe one. You completely neutralized that team. We had a 2-to-1 ratio for the play, like 70 to 30 plays on offense. Like the Seahawks right now are doing terrible. And I'll tell you what about that Lions team. I truly believe the Lions' first win or only win of the season may come over the Seahawks. That's how bad I think they are.
Yeah, I mean they're pretty.
They're reeling right now. They're coming down, and when you look at the rest of the NFC West, they got a long road ahead of them to come back to being competitive with that division.
So okay, let's switch gears here. Let's talk about the highlights, or maybe top 10 or top 5 at least. I'll give you mine, and then you tell me where you're different. And I don't like to be shticky, but I did struggle with this list because there's a whole bunch of teams that are just kind of stuck at the same spot. My number one, I got to go with the Packers. I'm not a Joe Barry guy. I think that defense is still suspect, but Aaron Rodgers is just. Not only is he uncancelable, and we've covered that on previous shows. Like, I mean, he's just too freaking good. And I think here, low key here, I think he's going to be a Bronco next year, and I think the Broncos will immediately be Super Bowl front runners because the Broncos. I was in Denver this past week for Thanksgiving, and one of my brother-in-laws actually pointed this out. They've locked up all of their talent positions. They got 2 tight ends. They've got 3 wide receivers. They've got an above average to good, almost great, running back. The defense, I mean, the haul that they got for Von Miller is incredible.
Yeah,
that's a low key. I mean, they're basically doing Peyton 2.0 here. And if they can snag an Aaron Rodgers or trade for a Kirk Cousins or grab a guy that they can plug in and can sling the ball, they're going to be pretty good. So anyway, I got the Packers at number 1. I got the Cardinals at number 2. I got the Bucks begrudgingly at number 3. And then I got a reach here at number 4, Cincinnati Bengals. I think they
Ooh.
are much better and far more talented than pretty much every other team. You can argue the Ravens, obviously, because they have a stud quarterback, but there's something special about that Bengals team. I mean, they can run the ball, they can throw the ball, they can catch the ball, and the defense doesn't have to be amazing to keep them in games. So I know it's a reach, but I got the Bengals at 4. And then 5 through 10, pick your poison, FP. I mean, honestly, all the teams kind of look the same to me. So no specific order. Cowboys, Ravens, Pats, Rams, Chiefs, Bills, pick it. But I think the top 4 for me are pretty clear. And the Bengals, to me, I think are better than all of those other teams.
I absolutely love what the Bengals are doing, and Joe Burrow is playing amazing. And yeah, I mean they're a really fun team. My top 5, I'll tell you what, it's still Cardinals number 1 because they ripped off some big wins without Murray and Hopkins. I mean, you have Colt McCoy kind of leading the charge, and the Cardinals don't miss a beat. That's a strong team, and now that they're fully healthy, I think they go even more crazy. So Cardinals number 1, Packers number 2, just because I kind of have a man crush on Aaron Rodgers. I love that he's uncancelable.
Who doesn't? He got that long
I love
hair.
that
Look,
he's.
look
I
at
love
me.
that
I
he's
got
on the
any hair.
Pat.
There's no hair.
I love that he's
here.
on the Pat
I'm up
McAfee
with the
show,
long
taking
hair.
off his sock, showing his toe to the media. I mean, you got to love Aaron Rodgers, right? I mean, after that, surprisingly, my number 3, and it hurts me to say this, and I'll get into a conspiracy theory after I explain it, is the Patriots. And I think they're the strongest team.
Why is it a
in the
conspiracy
AFC.
theory? Why it's not conspiracy theory? Mac Jones is
no. Hold
balling.
on. Let me tell the conspiracy theory. Number 4 is the Buccaneers, and I truly believe the NFL is going to do whatever they need to do to push a Belichick versus Brady Super Bowl. I'm telling you, Belichick versus Brady Super Bowl is on the horizon.
Well, the first part of that was played a couple weeks ago, and it was an absolute crap show. It was terrible. It was unwatchable.
Literally from that game, the Patriots have gone through the roof.
I know, but do you want to see that game? I don't want to see that game.
I don't.
No.
But can you tell me you won't be interested to watch it? Of course.
I would not be interested to watch that. I don't care. I respect Brady. He is the GOAT. I think if you say otherwise, you are not paying attention. But I don't find the Patriots to be. I wouldn't find that matchup to be intriguing beyond that storyline. And generally, off-field storylines in the NFL don't translate well because it's not like they go head to head, right? It's not like 2 players that hate each other. It's 2 guys that won a zillion Super Bowls together. So regardless of what anybody says, right? They're just. Nah, I mean, I don't want to see that. No. I have no interest in that. I have no interest. I want to see the Washington football team get there. Okay, that's what I want to see.
The number 5 seed that I have, and a little bit is common sense, and a little bit is because I'm watching the in-season Hard Knocks. But that Colts team, I'm loving this Colts team. And when you get into the colder weeks, the colder games, December month, Jonathan Taylor is exactly what you need.
Guy, they play in a dome. What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
What do you mean when I'm talking? He's been putting up crazy stats regardless
I know, but you're talking about like cold weather,
away.
As if like they don't have heat inside of the bubble.
Cold weather
Lucas
as
Oil
in
field.
Cold weather as in you need a strong run game when it's cold.
Yeah, well, okay.
And they have a strong run game.
But they're going to Tennessee and they're going to Jacksonville, I think. I mean, I don't disagree with you. If they have to go on the road in the playoffs, potentially to New England or to Kansas City or something, I'm with you. Carson Wentz, he's made me a believer again. I mean, he's a tough one to kind of bet against because any week he could look like I don't know. He's 2 different guys every week. Like you really don't know what you're getting with him, which I imagine is very frustrating if you're an actual Colts fan. But yeah, I mean, personally, I got the Colts at like 12, but I think they're probably a little bit better than that. For me, the Bengals are the team that I'm really curious about.
I love the Bengals, but like the Bills have let me down a lot, right? A lot of my fantasy is has Bills players. It destroyed me. I'm sure we'll get into that, but I mean, the Ravens, they're 1 Lamar injury away from being worse than the Lions. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Lamar is insane, but I can't put the Ravens up that high.
Well, and everyone is from a fantasy perspective, everybody is one one COVID positive test away from being destroyed,
Yes.
right? So, I mean,
Very
tomorrow
much
night,
so.
the Cowboys are playing without their head coach, right? The same head coach who has been trying to deflect and kind of keep the pressure off his guys. He's not even going to be there, right? And they've come up with a very Redskins-esque triangle format for like play calling. I mean, do you remember that nonsense we had here once upon a time where it was like two guys upstairs and one on the field with Jim Zorn trying to decide what plays to run? I don't know how that's going to work for Dallas. I mean, Dallas has a ton of talent, but I don't know. They might lose that game. I don't know. I mean, who do you cheer for in that situation? Do you cheer for the Saints to win and close? So the Cowboys, the delta between the Cowboys and the football team closes, or do you want the Cowboys to win to keep the Saints out of contention? Like, that's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, I can't cheer for the Cowboys.
I think
what do we do tomorrow?
In playoff eyes, you want the Saints to win because it gives the East a better reach for us. And that Saints team isn't talented enough to win the rest of their games or to win out the rest of their games.
Trevor
So they're
Siemian
probably
is
going
an
to fall out of
abomination
contention.
at the quarterback position. He is
Right, and
terrible.
Taysom Hill is maybe going to play with a broken foot.
Taysom
I
Hill
don't know.
must have
I'm not worried
something
about the Saints.
on Sean Payton. I don't understand how he's worth the money. That
Massive
they paid him.
contract for nothing.
I don't get it. I don't get it at all. To do what? To carry the ball 4 times and pretend to throw it once? I don't get that at all. But
Yeah.
okay, so before we shift here, so for those that are following the show and everybody that's watching, thank you for checking us out. This is DTC. We are going to have a fantasy guru join us, which I'm personally excited about. Joe Votruba is going to join us here in a little bit, probably in the next like 3-4 minutes or so. I'm going to track him down. I think he's logging into the green room right now. So for anybody that's watching out there, if you got fantasy questions, he's your guy. I have a bunch, and I think FP has a bunch too. So we'll start peppering some of that in. For anybody who's sending in comments, I see them starting to come in here. Send them in. Specify, please, which players. There's a whole bunch of Connors and Mitchells, so it's a little bit easier if you give us a first name and a last name. And we'll do our best to kind of flash that stuff on the screen, and we'll get Joe's comments and his expert opinion on who to start, who to sit, maybe who to go grab off the waiver wire as well. So we are going to take a quick break here, FP, unless you have something else to squeeze in here on the football team. Do you have anything else to squeeze in on the football team?
I'm good. Let's
All right,
take that
so
break.
let's take a quick break, and on the other side, we will bring in Joe V and talk some fantasy football.
This is DTC. We are taking a short break, but we will be right back. In the meantime, check out our YouTube channel, which is updated with content regularly, and if you haven't already, find us on your favorite podcast platform and hit subscribe. You can find the show on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, and Twitter. Just search for DTC or Defeating the Curse. Thanks for supporting us. The show will be right back. This is DTC. We are taking a short break, but we will be right back. In the meantime, check out our YouTube channel, which is updated with content regularly, and if you haven't already, find us on your favorite podcast platform and hit subscribe. You can find the show on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, and Twitter. Just search for DTC or Defeating the Curse. Thanks for supporting us. The show will be right back.
Welcome back in. Welcome back in. My name is Joe. FP's on mic 2, and special guest, Joe Votruba. Joe,
Hello.
welcome to DTC.
It is an honor to be a part of your show, guys.
Well, thank you for making time for us. We really appreciate it. I have a ton of fantasy questions. I think FP's got a bunch too. And there's a whole bunch coming in as well from folks that are watching the show. So if you're out there watching, send them in and we'll get them to Joe V. But Joe, I just got to ask. I mean, I know you've been doing the fantasy sports thing, bit, whatever, for a long time. But, I mean, how did you actually get into this? Because, I mean, for most of us, I feel like, at least for myself, I'll speak for myself. I stumbled into fantasy, right? It was just something I was doing with my guy friends, like the guys I grew up with. Hey, there's this fantasy football thing. It's about 20 years ago now, and we just kind of joined a league, and I'm both very proud and embarrassed to say I've been part of a league for this is the 17th season with the same with 8 of the original 10 guys in it. So we were all single. We got married. We got kids. Like it's a crazy situation.
No, that makes it that makes it even better. It's all about.
I've been trying to crack that league for 10 years. They won't let me in.
See,
they won't let me
in, and nobody gets out either. The only escape is death. But I mean, that's how I got into it. And I got to be honest. Over the years, I've definitely my interest has waned a little bit. Right? I mean, I've gotten more into it's really because of time, and it's just I don't have enough time just to sit and watch everything. But I'm just curious, like, how did you get into this, and how have you stayed so into it over these years?
So what got me, to really like want to follow it and give advice, was actually like, well, one, hearing other so-called experts give their advice, which oftentimes is no more valid than our opinions that you guys were just going over before you had me on. And a lot of times those kinds of things get billed as expertise, but really you're just it's a hunch for the most part. You could have as many, you guys were talking about DK Metcalf before, who had maybe like the worst game of his career. He had 5 targets. The tight end, Gerald Everett, had 9 in that game. And he's, DK Metcalf has had a down few weeks. It's very easy to come on the airwaves and say that DK Metcalf is a bust. But the bottom line is on Sunday, if he goes out and scores 2 touchdowns, that same person is going to be very quiet. And that's just how it goes. And as far as what got me into it in the first place, it's like you were talking about, the camaraderie, and it gets people talking. It gives you different reasons to watch the game. It also makes watching football a lot more fun. And when I was a kid, I was always the kid with Madden and MLB The Show, where my favorite feature was the franchise mode and being the GM.
Oh, you're that guy.
I'm that guy.
You're that guy.
Yeah,
I can't be that guy.
I can't be that guy. That guy's got too much patience.
Too much patience, too much time on his hands. I was never the guy that you can go head to head with online because I'd get my ass handed to me. But no, I love it. And honestly, fantasy football scratches the itch for me the same way that betting on sport, that just like betting on football might scratch the itch for someone else.
We do a lot of that here. We're borderline degenerates when it comes to the gambling. Our accounts, we have a show account and then we have individual accounts. Yeah, I mean,
wow.
FP, how many times have you reloaded your FanDuel or MyBookie account at this point? I think you're FanDuel.
I've only reloaded FanDuel twice, but I do good on FanDuel. Me and LP talk about it all the time. He always wants to know
what is good.
He always wants to know what my account balance is, but I hit some big bets.
So
on
Joe,
FanDuel.
Joe Razzle controls our he controls our like show betting account, and he's conveniently changed the password several times on us. So he's taken a lot of credit for, and he deserves it. He's the one putting in these crazy like 7-way parlays, anytime touchdown scorer plus Messi getting a goal is these crazy combinations. But yeah, I mean that's when you know it's going more from a hobby to a habit, is when you start doing cross sports parlays. I really wanted to do the DC double on Monday, try to get the Wiz and the WFT. Obviously the Wiz didn't fare very well. And the Caps really hurt last. I mean, FPU and I didn't talk about that, but that's for another day. That third period was
really want to talk about.
That was painful yesterday, but that's for another day. But Joe, so I guess I'm just gonna start peppering you with some questions here. There's some that are coming in via social media. I'm gonna flash this one on. This is a good one here, and I personally have a similar interest in something like this because I didn't lose CMC. I lost Derrick Henry. I can't figure out which Tennessee running back matters at this point. I spent 50 of my 100 available, Yahoo dollars to grab what's the primary backup's name? The third down back. I can pull it up. But anyway, I overspent to go grab one of the Tennessee running backs, and then I grabbed Adrian Peterson, and now was it Dontrell Hilliard? I think is the next man up, and who's grabbing a bunch of yards. So I don't know. I mean, you're the guy here. So CMC, in this case, Max B says CMC is done. Obviously, he is done for the season. Which Tennessee running back is worth targeting?
Well, the first thing is make sure that if if you're without CMC, Max, if you're doing this to fill someone like for this very week, the Titans are on a bye. So that's, if you're looking down the line, sure. I don't really have, if I had to pick one running back in that system, it would be Hilliard, just because he seems to be the one that's progressing the fastest. He went from being signed off the practice squad to being, arguably the lead guy in about 2 weeks. And again, I mean, no one's Derrick Henry. No one's going to be Derrick Henry. I don't think anyone's asking him to be Derrick Henry. But he does seem to be the hot hand right now for Tennessee. So after this week, it might not be a bad play. And the thing that stinks about losing McCaffrey, for any McCaffrey owner out there, is you very likely took him first overall with the number 1 overall pick. And usually when that happens, by the time that the snake draft gets back to you, you feel like you're looking at garbage. And when you factor in injuries, bye weeks, and just what happens during a fantasy football season, you might be left with a decision like this.
So I'm going to pepper in one here from just for myself because, I mean, why not, right?
Yeah, sure.
Aaron Rodgers on bye week. He's not available to me. Is there a quarterback that you like out there? I'm going to have to grab somebody off of the waiver wire. I'm going out there to look and see who's available right now in this league. I mean, Kirk, I'm leaning towards Kirk, unless you tell me otherwise. It's either Kirk or Heineke, maybe Wentz. If
Kirk Cousins is available, I would absolutely go Kirk Cousins. I thought that we were going to be going deeper here, and I was going to make FP mad and talk about Taysom Hill because for as iffy of a start as Taysom Hill might be, Taysom Hill, rushing quarterbacks are gold. And it's one thing for Taysom Hill to be Taysom Hill when Jameis Winston's starting, or even if Trevor Siemian's starting. But if Taysom Hill's the guy, you could be looking at a dynamic type guy under center, where really the only person that would take a hit, the only player that would take a hit there would be Kamara if he plays.
If he plays.
But if you're talking about Kirk Cousins,
hitting on my question there.
Yeah, I mean, so Taysom is available as well. I mean,
Kirk's been having a sneaky good year though.
Kirk has been having
good. He's a good quarterback. He's a great quarterback. I mean,
sneaky as in like under the radar MVP almost level. I mean, he has 20-something touchdowns, 2 picks, something like that. Like he
threw his first pick in several weeks last week. Yeah. Kirk. I mean, I'm a Kirk guy, but
especially if Dalvin Cook isn't going this week either, there might be more emphasis on the passing game. I know Alexander Madison is pretty great himself. I always talk about on my show, it's that Alexander Madison is that one guy who is like the carbon copy of the guy in front of him. If Dalvin Cook gets hurt or gets into legal trouble, you plug him in and you do not expect him to skip a beat. And that's the only situation in the NFL, I think, that you can say that, except maybe Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. But I think that might be a stretch.
Right. Let me hit you with one that I have on my fantasy team. I can't let Joe get all the advice here. So I have Kittle on my team. I rode him through the injuries. He came back last week. He was rough. I do have Ertz available on waiver wire. Do I want to bring in Ertz over Kittle, considering Kyler Murray is probably back, but that also means Hopkins is back, which means Ertz may not be as dynamic.
As opposed to George Kittle, who has not been who's not what you expected this year. He's either been hurt or not used. So there's two things to factor in here. Deebo Samuel is doubtful for this game. So that's one less mouth to feed for San Francisco. The other thing is that Zach Ertz, for anyone that held on to Zach Ertz, the second that he went to Arizona, his stock went way up.
This guy did right here.
Yeah, and you feel good with that. But if you have a guy like Kittle, I would stick with Kittle, and the reason for that is because for as great as Zach Ertz is, and the same goes for people that maybe drafted DeAndre Hopkins this year, is that DeAndre Hopkins is a future Hall of Famer. Also me too. But here's the problem: there are so many weapons in that offense on Arizona that like DeAndre Hopkins may score you a touchdown, but he may only also get 40 yards. because Kyler Murray is spreading the ball around to, to AJ Green, to Christian Kirk, who's become the number one since Hopkins has been out. Then you have Ertz. Then you have James Conner catching passes. Edmonds, when he comes back, catching passes. It's fun to watch, but from a fantasy perspective, it's a head scratcher.
Joe, do you like Zach Ertz more, or is it what's his name? Dalton Schultz with the Cowboys? Like, if you had to have one,
I would go rest of season. I'm going Dalton Schultz.
Oh,
Dalton Schultz. Yeah.
So
personally, yeah. And I think anyone that drafted, I don't think anyone drafted Dalton Schultz, but anyone that picked him up along the way.
Yeah, it was a streaming option, just plug and play. But Zach is coming back. I got to figure out what to do with him. But I think he's the guy I'm going to have to drop to pick up Kirk. But I might just text you on the side my lineup to see how you would set this up, because I desperately need a win to stay in contention.
I'll hook you both up, and then if FP ever makes it into your league, I won't pick any favorites.
Never.
I'll give you guys both.
Never gonna happen.
Joe
will rather
quit
the
first,
podcast.
So yeah, but look, there's a ton of questions here. Dak or Kyler this week?
Dak or Kyler? That is a great question. Kyler Murray hasn't played, and Dak. Normally on a Thursday, I would always kind of shy away, but it's not a short week for Dallas because they played last Thursday, so they've had the full week. New Orleans secondary has been hit or miss. It has not been, as shut down as it has been in years past. Looking at, Arizona is also going up against Chicago. So that is a very nice matchup. Sometimes in those kinds of games that look like mismatches, you might be looking at a second half where the ball is staying on the ground. That being
but what
said,
would you do? I think Dak's obviously playing early, and Kyler is maybe not going to play. So,
I would go Dak. I think Kyler hopes to play, but I would definitely go Dak Prescott here. Maybe not every week. I think that they're both very comparable.
But for this week,
for
Dak.
sure.
So, staying on the quarterback topic, we got another question that came in: Matt Stafford or Joe Burrow? That's a tough one. Somebody's got some talented quarterbacks. That team better be playoff bound.
That is a tough one. I'm going Burrow. I'm with you guys. The Bengals are for real.
Burrow.
The Bengals are for real.
Mm-hmm.
Bengals are for real.
And Burrow is, look at the weapons he has. Tyler Boyd isn't even scratching the surface anymore.
You could say the same about Stafford, though. He's surrounded by playmakers, too. I don't know. That one to me is a lot closer, but I just trust. I don't know what happened to Stafford. He started the season red hot, and he's really cooled off.
He is. I think he's nursing a sore back, and as we've seen in his years in Detroit, when he gets the slightest bit injured, the wheels kind of come off. It doesn't take away from him. He's still a great quarterback, and maybe not going with Stafford in this situation might be a little bit of recency bias, because you're right. There are tons of great weapons there. There's something about the way that the Rams have been playing ever since I want to say week 8 or 9, where it just seems like things haven't been in sync as much as they've looked like they. For the first 6 or 7 weeks of the season, you thought it was a lock that they'd be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and you're right, because I remember watching that opening game at home, I think it was, and it was Stafford to Deshaun for a bomb. And then Deshaun's no longer there, and then they bring in OBJ, and they basically continue to try to get him involved, and they really can't.
Locker room killer.
That like Sean McVay, like 2 missteps in a row from a guy that I think we know him pretty well, obviously from his time here in DC, but just seemed like a miss on both. But staying on the Rams, how do you feel about Van Jefferson the rest of the way? He's a guy, I picked him up a couple weeks ago, talented receiver. He doesn't get a ton of targets except last week, obviously against Green Bay. Stafford had to air it out quite a bit. Put up a great line. How do you think he fares the rest of the way? He's probably, I would imagine he's available in a ton of leagues right now. I think I'm actually looking at it right now. He's available in 42% of leagues.
Wow. See, and that's, to me, that's low. I was hesitant on Van Jefferson just because these guys that pop up out of nowhere on offenses with guys like Cooper Kupp and at the time Robert Woods, you're like, oh, well, this guy's a nice compliment, but how long is this really going to last? And it's lasted. It's not an every week kind of thing, but I would definitely be confident I would be confident starting him this week. I mean, they're going up against the Jaguars at home. It's not a week in, week out thing, and I don't think that Odell Beckham is going to be as heavily utilized as put up as much numbers as he did last week. It's now, especially with Robert Woods out for the year, Van Jefferson slides right into that role of the third receiver, and Tyler Higbee is a non-factor in that offense right now too. I wouldn't hesitate starting him if you had to.
All right. I mean, I'm curious to get your thoughts. There's a couple more here I want to kind of plow through, and then I want to get your thoughts on players that may be widely available in Yahoo or ESPN that we can all target. Trade deadlines for the most part, I think at this point, are over. But Max is sending in another one here. This is a good one. He pick one. It's a half-point PPR. James Conner, Eli Mitchell, James Robinson.
James Conner.
I'm going Eli Mitchell here. Eli Mitchell.
Really?
Eli Mitchell, yeah, I'm going Eli Mitchell here. He's played like a low-end RB1 since he's been healthy. And who the other two guys that were on there? The other two options? James Robinson.
James
goes
Conner.
Up against
James Conner and James Robinson.
James Conner's not bad. James Robinson, who you probably wouldn't bench in most circumstances, is playing on the Jaguars, and he's had a down couple of weeks, and they're going up against the Rams in Los Angeles. That just does not seem like a game script that would go the way of the running back, even though James Robinson catches a lot of passes.
Isn't Connor still the lead rushing touchdown running back, or did Taylor take that from him?
No, Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor take that from him?
Yeah.
Connor was up there for a while.
He was, and he's been used even more because Chase Edmonds has been hurt.
Right.
We got another one here, Joe. Miles Sanders, play, bench, trade. Well, trade you can't do, but play, bench, or drop at this point. Miles Sanders.
This is your last week for Miles Sanders. This is, I mean, if you could drop him now and you have someone better out there, go right ahead. He's going up against the Jets this week. If he cannot be a factor in this, it's over. And the Eagles have a pretty good schedule the rest of the way.
Yeah, they
do. From a fantasy perspective, yeah. So on paper, you would think that Miles Sanders would be great, but the fact of the matter is even when he's healthy, they're either not going to the running game at all, or they're using Boston Scott or Kenny Gainwell in big situations where Miles Sanders is just staying in the middle of the field. He's almost like a Devin Singletary type, what he's turning into. And yeah, I mean, if you must, and I drafted Miles Sanders in the second round in 2 leagues this year, and I feel like an idiot because it's not happening. I don't know if you're qualified to be on the show anymore.
Fantasy guru. I don't know if I would admit that one out loud either.
I know.
That's a bad one.
We all make mistakes. But yeah, no. If you have to start Sanders, it's not a bad situation to be in this week going up against the Jets. But if it doesn't happen this week, cut him loose.
Yeah.
So let me hit you with one. Joe keeps taking all the advice. So speaking back to Cardinals, right? So would you, as like a flex, maybe wide receiver 2, would you put in an AJ Green, or would you put in like a Cole Beasley on the Bills? Both of them I feel are kind of even. I don't know which one you'd want to take the risk on.
Well, you're gonna want to monitor if DeAndre Hopkins is playing or not. That's a big one because if Hopkins is out, everyone moves up a little bit. But I mean, AJ Green, I guess technically is the wide receiver 2 there, but there's still a lot.
I feel like they're all wide receiver 2s.
This is a great question because Cole Beasley is going. You have to wait until Monday, and he's going up against the Patriots.
Right. Exactly.
But I would probably go Cole Beasley here. And you have the Monday Night Miracle, you hold out hope for, and he's the defined number 2 in that system. So you kind of have a little bit more confidence in that. Plus, I don't think the Bills would have too big of a problem getting through New England's defense, but that's just me.
Is there, Joe, a player that you think is widely available that should be on teams right now? I mean, this is one of those things that I'm always curious about. I mean, somebody who's much closer to the or I guess you watch it a lot closer than myself or FP. Obviously, everybody wants to win their league, and at this point, you're not trading with anybody. Most leagues don't actually have trades anyway. I mean, that's just I think that's something that trading for some reason, no matter how well you know the people, like I think the more you know or the better you know the people you're playing with, the less likely you are to trade with them.
Yeah.
Because everyone just assumes that everyone's trying to screw everyone. But at this point in the season, if you're on the bubble or competing, is there a player out there that's widely available, Yahoo, ESPN, whatever, that should be on roster? Like somebody that or maybe somebody that is rostered in a ton of leagues that shouldn't be there anymore. There's a question that came in from Paul here. I'm looking at it specific to DK Metcalf. I mean, I can't foresee it. I don't see a situation where I would drop him personally, but there are players that are heavily rostered that just aren't performing. So, assuming you've got one of those, who do you drop if you have them moving forward? And more importantly, who are you targeting to pull in off the waiver wire if they're sitting there?
Well, as far as the waiver wire is concerned, it's tough right now because I mean it's 13 weeks in or 12 weeks in, going on 13, and what's left is it looks like you may be scraping the bottom of the barrel. In a lot of cases, you might be because you're in a pinch, but this is also the time of year. This is my favorite time of year for fantasy because not only are you trying to win now, but if you are in fourth place and above, you also have the luxury of trying to kind of plan ahead a little bit for the playoffs. And so this is like the time of year where you start going on the waiver wire. And this goes for any position, even for defenses. You just look for anyone that's available that has a favorable playoff schedule. And they automatically move up a couple of slots in terms of importance down the line. One guy that is only 38% owned in Yahoo leagues, and I think it's criminal, is Kendrick Bourne, wide receiver on the New England Patriots. In the last month, he has become Mac Jones' most trusted receiver, and that only gets more exacerbated the closer they get to the end zone. 2 of the last 3 weeks, he has put up over 20 half-point PPR points. He's not a yardage machine. He's a little bit more touchdown dependent, but he's only getting better. He's a great athlete. He gets the ball in big situations. And again, this goes, it might not happen this week because Baltimore's defense Monday night in Baltimore might not be the best situation for Kendrick Bourne or Mac Jones for that matter. Mac Jones is still, kind of coming into his own here. But Kendrick Bourne has helped Mac Jones come into his own. It's been fun to watch. I think he's even surpassed Jacoby Myers in terms of trust there.
Talk to me about Kenyon Drake. What do we do with him?
Kenyon Drake you could drop Kenyon Drake. That is a great example of a guy.
So am I dropping Kenyon Drake to pick up Bourne?
Yes, absolutely.
Are you sure?
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay. I'm doing it right now.
Make that move. Make that move twice.
I mean, I appreciate the confidence. I should tell you, my running backs are DeAndre Swift and Tony Pollard, so I don't have a whole lot of options there. I do have Edwards-Helaire as well. I guess, I don't need Kenyon Drake. It's done anyway.
I think CEH is going to start. I think CEH starts producing. That's my take.
I would hope so.
You would hope it's with an offense like Kansas City for him to be a non-factor for as long as he was. For a while he was falling into that category of a guy that you drafted in the 3rd round or 2nd round that you're like, I can just cut this guy loose now. I mean, there's no point in keeping him here.
We have one question that just came in. Defenses the rest of the way. Do you have a defense that you're targeting or a defense that you want to hold on to outside of the top 10, assuming the top 10 are not available?
Yeah, well, we're going to go way outside the top 10 and talk about the Seattle Seahawks, who I know, week 14, let me just make sure I have this right here, that in week 14, the Seattle Seahawks have a very favorable matchup. And I know that in week 17, the finals, they go up against the Lions. But week 14, the final week of the regular season, Houston. The Seattle Seahawks go up against Houston. Yeah. So you got Houston and Detroit within a month of each other. Obviously, you're hoping that Seattle holds up their end of the bargain. Look, on the Monday night game, they didn't look that bad, and the Washington football team has a pretty good offense, pretty fluid offense, and they did a decent job. I think that they can get the job done against the Houston Texans. But again, like you only pick them up now if you are talking about if you're planning ahead, because you're not going to want to, start them against the 49ers. And really, I mean,
would you pick them up at the expense of the Baltimore Ravens? Or
yes,
would you
I
rather
would
have the Ravens the rest of the way?
No, I would take the Seahawks the rest of the way.
I'll tell you what,
Dallas
for how many
over-
plays the Seahawks defense had on Monday, they held us to 17 points or whatever. I mean, if they get any sort of production from that offense where the defense can actually rest a little bit, I agree. I think that Seahawks defense can actually really, really look strong.
So I'm actually looking at my situation now. I have the Dallas D right now. Baltimore's available and Seattle's available, but I only have 3 moves
You're in
left
my
for the
shoes.
season.
I have Dallas D too, and they keep letting me down.
I mean, Baltimore historically fares very well defensively. They've strung a bunch of good games together. They get Pittsburgh, Cleveland, then Green Bay, which is problematic. That's for most leagues, week 15. If it's not championship week, it's close to it. And then Cincinnati, week 16, and then they end with the Rams. So, I mean, but they've done it.
That's
Yeah,
rough.
that's rough.
That is a rough end to the season there.
No,
And yeah.
I mean,
Well, that's the other thing. So I also have Dallas, but I could drop them for the Dolphins defense or the Broncos defense.
I mean, if the Dolphins are out
two
there,
are also
I was
available.
hoping to snag the Dolphins. Those guys are playing like a different team all of a sudden. Dolphins have looked really, really good.
Dolphins have looked really good. That might be the move right there. They've been
Dallas
playing-
also has a lot of NFC East games left, right?
Correct.
So
they have Washington twice. They get Philly once.
that Dallas
yes.
defense against Hurts, Heineke, and maybe Jones with a neck injury, you kind of like that too.
Joe, I'm gonna be texting you on the side about this one because I gotta figure out how to manage these moves down the stretch. But I'm curious, Joe. Do you have a team? Like, who is your team? We are DC based. We're all about WFT here. Everyone on the show. We have 6 guys that rotate through this show for different reasons, but everybody's a Washington football team fan through and through. Who is your team, Joe?
Oh man, this is embarrassing. I'm a Giants fan.
Oh my
Big
gosh.
Giants. I know. I had a feeling that that's how the reaction was going to go. I know, and I deserve all of that. It's
I don't know
it's been a tough
if that's
years.
worse or the Miles Sanders thing was worse.
Well,
I don't know.
how
I think
about-
it might be. I think a Giants fan taking Sanders in the second is just a sin entirely.
That's where I was going.
I feel I don't like drafting Dallas players. I don't like drafting any players or anyone in the NFC East. I never feel good about it. Never.
Because you never want to root for them.
There's no one on the Giants that you'd even want. I mean, Saquon Barkley has been hurt, and it's sad watching what's happening with Saquon Barkley's career. It's just the knee's shot, and I don't know how you can ever spend big money on a running back in the draft ever again. That's just me. Different story for a different day. But yeah, I mean, everyone, especially in fantasy, was high on Kadarius Toney for a hot minute, and
Kadarius looked promising. I mean, he still looks promising, but I mean, Kenny Galladay was a terrible signing in the offseason. There's all of a sudden there's more questions coming in. Does Tyrod Taylor make any player on Houston relevant?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, Brandon Cooks is the only receiver there.
He's relevant either
worthy.
way. Yeah.
And I will say though, for Houston's offense, right now, Rex Burkhead is getting the majority of the carries for that team, and I think he's only like 8% owned in Yahoo leagues. So if you're in a pinch, maybe you have Miles Sanders. You may want to look into that too.
And then we have a question here: Broncos D the rest of the way or Baltimore?
Broncos. I mean, the Broncos schedule is tough, but going over the Ravens schedule, man, I think this conversation convinced me to just be out on that for the rest of the season.
Well, then we did our job. We confused the fantasy guru, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's what we're here to do, is
Excellent.
pepper you with
Excellent.
questions until we get you spun around. We'll let you out on this, Joe. Thank you for
Task
making
failed
time.
successfully.
If you had to eliminate one Thanksgiving side dish, which one are you getting rid of forever? Forever. I know FP, I think you're getting rid of mac and cheese.
Whoa, definitely not.
What are you getting rid
Nobody
of?
should be getting rid of mac and cheese.
I'm getting rid of mac and cheese. I think it's incredibly overrated.
Mashed potatoes.
Yeah, I don't like mashed potatoes either.
Get them out.
I'm
Potatoes
going-
are
I'm
the
going
greatest
stuffing.
food. You're going. How do you get
No,
rid of
I mean, it's
stuffing?
once
Stuffing's
it's
gotta
once a
go.
year, man. It's once a year, guy.
Stuffing's got to go. Don't give
I
me
can eat-
mushy bread and broth.
Yeah,
Stuffing's got
Oh,
to
I
The
can
go.
eat
problem
that.
with your stuffing is you're probably not. You got to sprinkle some bacon in it to make it interesting.
No. My sister makes the stuffing from scratch. It tastes amazing. I'm just not prioritizing it over all the other dishes. It's just not happening.
I'm
I
down on
love
mac
how
and
it
cheese.
tastes.
You would
Sounds
rather
good.
have mashed potatoes on your plate than stuffing.
Yeah, if we're talking mashed potatoes from scratch, stuffing from scratch, I want that mashed potatoes with that turkey gravy. I want it. Give it to me. Give it all to me. I'll bathe in
I also
it.
don't understand
Let's go.
people that don't eat turkey on Thanksgiving. It's actually, like, turkey stinks, generally speaking. It's dry and not very good, and for a lot of people, it makes them gassy. But like on Thanksgiving, I feel like everyone's supposed to just suck it up. Like, that's what we do.
I'll tell you
Thanksgiving,
this.
you eat
I'll tell
turkey
you
and
this.
pretend it's good.
If you're still eating turkey on Thanksgiving dinner and it's not either deep fried or smoked, you're doing it wrong. Get into the 2021, either smoke or deep fry your turkey. Nobody
But
wants
please don't
your
burn down your
brine
house.
and your
Please nobody burn down your
4-hour.
house.
Oh, it's too much work.
Burn it down.
People have to start making their turkeys like the Monday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
It's too much.
get out
Too
of
much.
here. Deep
Yeah.
fry that bad boy. Enjoy the crispy skin, or smoke it and have the house smell like heaven for 36
Which did you
hours.
have this year, FP?
I had 2 deep fried turkeys. One was Cajun styled.
Ooh.
From Popeyes?
No, from brother-in-law.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had a
done, FP's
fantastic
brother-in-law.
Thanksgiving.
Joe, where can everyone find your show?
On the Contender with a K. It's called Go With Your Gut Fantasy Sports, which basically, sometimes I might not have the answer. Sometimes you might not have the answer. Sometimes the answer, even if you make the wrong move and you go with what you think is the right move, at least you can, be happy with that. We are every week during the football season. We'll probably have some specials during the off season too. Go over some draft rankings, do maybe some special stuff for keeper leagues, things like that. And then in the meantime, as the season wears on, the playoffs get closer. If you have any of these questions, you might hear me on here. You could also reach out to me on social media. It's at Joe Votruba on all the social medias that you have. And I'll be happy to help you if I can.
Joe, we'd love to. I think we need you on weekly. Are you? Can we get you to commit right now live to come back with us? Are you available?
I will definitely be back. I'll 100% be back. We will
Awesome.
correspond while I'm giving you bad advice for your fantasy team.
Thank you.
And then we
I
will
need you
compete again.
around so I can hold you accountable for the bad choices I
Well,
made.
I mean, that's what I'm here for.
Thank you very much, Joe. We appreciate you jumping on with us.
Thank you so
thank
much.
you, thank you. And to everyone that sent in questions, thank you as well.
Yes, thank you.
FP, as we put a bow on the show here, any final thoughts or comments? I thought that was a really good segment, by the way. Give me some
It's a
insights,
great
and
segment.
I added a
I
couple
loved it.
players.
Yeah. Made me realize that my team is hot garbage, so that's great.
Are you in the playoff mix right now?
I am. My loss this past week got me right outside of the bubble, but I can easily get right back in, so I'm not worried.
I am. Yeah, I in both leagues, I have a very good but not successful team. So I think this is make or break. I mean, this is there's no turning back. If I win this week, I'm still in it, and I will continue to struggle through until I'm eliminated early. A loss this week means I am just watching the football team the rest of the way, and
Yep.
I'm done with the fantasy bit. But
You and I are on
we
the
didn't
same
get to
page.
we didn't get to the Capitals or the Wiz. The Capitals in particular. I think, are you rocking the World Series, the Stanley Cup hat? I think that's the one.
Damn right, baby.
I like that
Yep.
one. So I
Going
guess
to the
we
game
can,
tomorrow.
Yeah, we can circle back to both of those teams. I think they both deserve some quality time. The Wizards in particular for me. I know you're much bigger on the Cap side, but yeah, I mean, last night was a little bit rough for the Caps. That third period was not good.
I'll tell you what, you did it against a really good Panthers team, and you're basically playing with an AHL team with Ovi, Kuzi, and Wilson helping the young guns out. Right, we're very injured. Ovi's playing out of this world. The team's still really strong. I have no doubt in my mind that once you get Oshie and Backy and all those guys back, that this team, sky's the limit for them. I mean, these young guns and all these rookies getting goals, this is a very special team. And that meltdown is almost a good thing for them. You need these young guys to know that a 3-point lead in the third period means nothing. So keep your foot on their throat and keep getting those goals and going for it. The team's great. And honestly, like the Wizards team too. I mean, I've been talking to LP about them nonstop. You got to love everything you're seeing from them. But right now, as of late, my concern is kind of the chemistry between Beal and Dinwiddie. And this may be you may need a Wizards specific podcast on that one, but there's a little tweaking that needs to happen with the chemistry.
It's very weird when one or the other is not playing. The team is significantly better.
Yes,
more balanced, more points, and winning. When they play at the same time, the numbers are not
passive.
good.
They're just passive.
Yeah, I mean the Wiz did win tonight, so they did improve to. They beat they were home. They beat the Timberwolves, so they improved 14-8, which is good for second. I believe, or third, depending on the tiebreaker.
Tape delay LP. If he's listening to this, you just ruined his night.
He'll be fine. His whole life is on tape delay. He's gonna listen to this show on tape delay, so don't stress him. I mean, he's the guy lives his life on a tape delay. It's actually
fun fact. So Monday, since it was a Monday night game, I always watch it with LP. I was on an hour and a half tape delay because I couldn't get to his house until he put the kids to sleep. We didn't start watching the game till 9:30.
But I mean, if you skip everything, you probably ended within 10 minutes of the real game.
We ended within 10-15 minutes, but I mean, I had to sit there for an hour on
no social media, no phone. Twitter, no Facebook, no nothing.
Couldn't check anything.
Blackout.
Yep.
Blackout.
Yep.
Well, FP, I think we are done for today. Hopefully, the next time we chat, the Washington football team will have improved to 6-6 and have beaten the Vegas Raiders. That was a game I had circled. I really wanted to make that game happen. Obviously, anytime you get to go to Vegas, who says no to going to Vegas? But that's okay. But we're a couple days out. I think we will learn something more about our team. I think Ron has them moving in the right direction. The kicking game will be suspect, but you're playing in the desert in a dome, so it's ideal. It's an ideal scenario for somebody that's coming in off the street, regardless of who it is. But I think we're going to see a lot of going forward on 4th and 1. I think we're going to see some punts where otherwise you maybe would have attempted. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But honestly, if they keep converting third downs at 62% like they did on Monday night, it's not going to matter. So we will see what happens. Thank you for making time. Thanks again to Joe Votruba for joining us as well to do a little bit of a fantasy chat. I thought that was very good. I think we'll do it again. But for now, my name is Joe. His name is FP. This is Defeating the Curse, available on all podcast platforms, all social media platforms. Thank you to everyone who sent in comments. We appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the show. I am going to lead us out here with Coach Ron Rivera in the locker room. But before I play that, I just wanted to say one more time, a very special thank you to the Contender Network for helping us broadcasting this show, distributing the show across their platform. Our numbers are skyrocketing, and it's humbling and amazing and awesome all at the same time. It's also a little bit nerve-wracking. We're bootstrapping this ourselves, so we're learning as we go. But we appreciate the love, and thanks for riding with us. We appreciate it. But until next time, my name is Joe. This is DTC. We are out.
Everything we need is in this room. Everybody in this room we need. We've got to work together, stay together, and be the team that we can be. We will not take it from anybody. I don't give a shit how they stack it against us. We're whipping it. Now let's play football. Here we go. Team on 3. 1, 2, 3. Team!